The Pittsburgh Steelers have 5 major position battles to look forward to and pay attention to as Latrobe and training camp starts this July. So, the offseason is in full effect. This is the point in the offseason where all the news is really on the down low and there isn't really much stuff to go over. So, video like this today and video like these in the coming days are top 5 people and positions the Steelers are going to be looking at for position battles. I'm going to list all the position battles right now, like left tackle, running back, wide receiver, cornerback, punter, and then my honorable mention is inside linebacker. So let's start off with left tackle. As we all know, Dan Moore Jr. and Broderick Jones. Those are the 2 guys competing for the starting job. As of right now, Dan Moore Jr. has the advantage because he was a starter for the last 2 seasons as a rookie 2 years ago in the 4th round. And Broderick Jones, though, he also has an advantage because the Steelers drafted him in the 1st round, and they wouldn't draft someone in the 1st round unless they wanted them to play. So those 2 are going to be competing for the starting job. Dan Moore Jr., we all know his inconsistencies, but when he's solid, he's actually pretty solid, but he's inconsistent with false starts, penalties, and letting guys go past him. So, like I said, he's very inconsistent. But with Broderick Jones, he's still so young, and coming straight out of college, he doesn't have that game experience, so the Steelers might still stick with Dan Moore Jr. early in the season until Broderick Jones kind of sees the field and sees it from the sideline point of view, and until Dan Moore Jr. messes up big time. But Broderick Jones could win the starting job straight from training camp, straight from preseason. Who knows? But that's one of the biggest battles that we're going to have at one of the most important spots on the offensive line. Left tackle, protecting Kenny Pickett's blind spot, and also run blocking on the left side of the offensive line. So that's the most biggest, I believe, position battle that there is to look forward to. Now we're going to look at the second biggest position battle going into training camp and the preseason. This one never really gets talked about, but the Steelers have a position battle at cornerback going on. We all know Patrick Peterson. He's going to be a starter. He's going to be a guy who moves all around the defense, but that second cornerback spot is kind of really wide open when you think about it. Yes, the Steelers have Levi Wallace returning from last season, who played really solid. He wasn't absolutely great, but he's really a solid cornerback and made some plays on interceptions. But the Steelers drafted Joey Porter Jr. in the 2nd round, at the top of the 2nd round. So basically like a 1st round draft pick with pick number 32. So they really like what he could bring to the table. They obviously like what he could bring to the Steelers team right away as well, because he is an older cornerback. So the Steelers are going to have a competition there, I believe, in Levi Wallace and Joey Porter Jr., who's going to be the starter at outside cornerback next to Patrick Peterson on the opposite side. Levi Wallace obviously has the upper hand because he has been with the Steelers and he has played with them last season and he's played well. But also, like I said, with Broderick Jones, Joey Porter Jr. also has the upper hand because they wouldn't draft a guy at that pick such a high in the draft if they didn't expect him to come in and help the team, and just not help the team down the road, but help the team right away. So if someone gets injured, if someone doesn't play as good, expect the other to get a major leap and win a position battle. So heading into training camp, Latrobe, heading into the preseason, as we get into live action football, that's the second biggest battle, I believe, for positions that really isn't getting talked about much, but it's still one that's major, because when you think of cornerback, that's probably one of the best and important positions on a defense, because if you're getting beat by a wide receiver off the line or allowing so many wide open catches like we've seen over the years for the Steelers, that's not good. So you need really solid cornerbacks, and that's a battle that's going to be going on for the Steelers this offseason. So moving on to the third biggest position battle of the offseason to look forward to, obviously that third running back spot I mentioned a lot, so I'm not really going to cover as much, but obviously there's a third running back spot wide open with Alfonso Graham, Anthony McFarland Jr., and maybe even an outside guy if the Steelers decide to bring one in, competing for the third running back spot, Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, top 2 guys on the team. but Benny Snell Jr. is off the team now, who was the third running back last season, and now that spot is wide open with an undrafted rookie coming in this offseason and fourth year guy, Anthony McFarland Jr., competing for a job. So that's one of the biggest battles going on. Who will help that running back group? Usually, that third running back spot is more for special teams, so that kind of advantages Alfonso Graham because he is a bigger running back, and Anthony McFarland Jr. is a smaller running back who's more of a speedster. So that running back spot is wide open. Moving on to the next position battle, since I talk about the running back spot a lot, and you can go watch that on the video on the channel. Wide receiver. This one's not getting talked about a lot either when you think about it, but Steelers have a major position battle for wide receiver with multiple guys competing for a job. The Steelers have a set group of 4 right now who are basically guaranteed to make the team with Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Calvin Austin, and Allen Robinson. Those are the 4 guys. But if we're looking at previous years, last season, the Steelers carried 6 wide receivers on the team. But the season before that, they carried 5 wide receivers. So we don't know if they're going to carry 5 or 6 wide receivers. And that makes the battle even more tightly raced. Because when you look at it, the Steelers have so much depth at that position. They have guys like Miles Boykin. They have someone in Gunnar Olszewski who hasn't really performed well on the team. But they have someone in him who they paid a little bit of money to last offseason. And they also have guys like Hakeem Butler coming in and even Jordan Byrd. So they have guys competing for that. And there's only one spot. And even a training camp standout in Dez Fitzpatrick, who scored 3 touchdowns in one practice. I made a video on that. They have so many good guys at wide receiver, so much depth, so much people who has been on the team before, and if they carry 5 wide receivers, that cuts down the opportunity of so many guys to make the team. If they carry 6, it still cuts down the opportunity because there's so many people competing for a job, like 5 people for the last 2 or 1 spot, but it makes that race even more tightly because you don't know how many people are going to keep, and they have to perform well and produce. Wide receiver is all about producing. If you can't produce, not just on special teams, but as an actual wide receiver, as a big body receiver, then what's the point? Because Gunnar Olszewski, like I said, he was paid a little bit to be a returner last season, but he really lost his job to Steven Sims early in the season and throughout the whole season. So him returning, he actually has to produce at wide receiver now. You can't just expect him to be a special teams guy because if he lost his job last season, I mean, what's to say he won't lose it again this season? So he needs to produce as a wide receiver. And Hakeem Butler, he's a big body receiver who just came off a good XFL season. That's why the Steelers gave him a chance. So he has upper hand with conditioning, all that. But Miles Boykin, I believe, has the best chance because he is a good special teamer, a really good guy at special teams. But he's also a wide receiver who has experience in this league and has done a solid job for being a 5th wide receiver on the team last season and years prior. So he has the upper hand, but the Steelers have a major battle going to be going on at that position. So moving on to the last position to keep an eye on when training camp starts this July and also when preseason goes along, the Steelers have a battle between the punters. And I talked about this earlier last week, so I'm not going to go much into depth with it, but this is one of the biggest position battles on the team as well. It's not really exciting because it is special teams and punter, but Presley Harvin struggled the last couple seasons. Inconsistent. Yes, he has a huge leg, but really inconsistent. Sometimes he'll hit it for 60, sometimes he'll hit it for 25. You just never know when you need a good punt if he's actually going to give you a good punt. So they brought in Braden Mann from the Jets after he was waived, and he was inconsistent as well, but his numbers and his ball placement and stuff like that were miles ahead of Presley Harvin, even though he was inconsistent as well. That's why the Jets released him. But that's a big battle the Steelers are going to have and to look forward to as we head into the off-season stuff before the regular season, before the final 53-man roster decision. So, like I said, I'm going to do an honorable mention here. I said it was going to be inside linebacker, middle linebacker, only because what the coach said, Terrell Austin. He said that the starters are basically going to be Holcomb. The starters are going to be Landon Roberts at that position, and then Mark Robinson is going to have a chance to compete for the starting job next offseason. But I still believe there could be a chance that Mark Robinson could fight for a starting job. That's why I put it as honorable mention. But those positions, there's going to be a battle to see who's going to be the starter, I believe. But who really knows until we get into it? Let's see who will come out the winner. So, with that being said, that's the end of this video, but let me know down in the comments below. How do you feel about these top 5 position battles? Do you believe these are the 5 major ones? And at each of them, who do you believe is going to come out the winner and earn the 53-man roster spots? At each of those positions that I mentioned, there are going to be battles going into the preseason. Let me know down in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you like serious content analysis reports. Like the video, turn on post notifications down below for the channel as well so you get notified whenever I post next year's video. I cover everything Pittsburgh Steelers, so click that bell down below so you never miss out. And every news, every rumor going forward, I'm covering it all. This is the best place for Steelers news. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.